Welcome into our third episode of Catching Up with Clutch Sports Media alongside Larry Larson. I am Joey Wright, and we are pleased to be joined this afternoon by Washington boys basketball coach Eric Schermerhorn. Coach, before we dive into anything, thank you for joining us. I guess it's this evening for us, but whenever our viewers are watching.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for having me, fellas. Just kind of when you asked me to do this, on Tuesday, the TOC was supposed to be revving up. So it's kind of unfortunate that we're talking here. I'm in a kitchen, for goodness sake. You guys are back home off of campus. And just to think that we would have been playing some ball against Yorkville Christian on Tuesday is kind of a sad moment.
Yeah, it certainly is. And on that note, what have you been doing to stay busy and what have you been able to do basketball wise?
Boy, we go back to when this all started. We lost to Peoria Notre Dame in early March in a regional in a pretty darn good basketball game. We're up at halftime. I had a bad 2-minute stretch in that third quarter. And I remember in our locker room, the boys just talked about how ready they were to get back into the gym. And this is probably crazy to believe, but we were back in the gym already. There were teams still playing basketball and we were already lifting and we were already had guys doing individual workouts. And here we are now. I've lost track of time. I think we're over 7 some odd months later. And we've been in a gym when we're allowed to, when we're allowed legally to be in there and working. But again, right now at this moment, we are no longer back in our gym. We just started that last Thursday.
And Coach Larry and I have explored that Notre Dame team quite a bit for a separate project. And that was a lot of fun in that regional. But even you go back and look at the whole playoffs, a lot of fun. Everything's in full swing. It stops, and then it just becomes a weird time. So what were you guys doing a couple months ago, before it came down that you guys had to stop? Kind of what did your offseason look like? And how are you guys kind of ramping up when there was maybe some talk and some optimism that we would have a season starting in November?
Well, we have a group of kids that are just tremendously invested in basketball and in their teammates and just in the work that goes into anything that they put into life. Their work ethics are through the roof in almost everything that they do. We have been living in the gym, tons of dedication. We've been saying we're working on you to work on us because a lot of what we're doing is individual skill work. And our guys, their skill levels, I'm excited so the community and so the public can see what's happened to some of our young men because their skill levels have jumped through the charts in the last couple of months. And of course, the next thing, and I'm sure a lot of programs are doing this, we've put on strength. We've gotten more athletic. We've had some guys that have hit some crazy growth spurts here in the last 4 or 5 months. So I'm anxious and excited to show them off because I know how much they've worked. And in the last couple of months, we have gotten better as a basketball team, and our individual skill has improved more probably than any year that I've been around Washington.
Your roster certainly was impressive, and I think me and Joey are very excited to see what you have coming back whenever the season does happen, hopefully eventually down the road here. And I know during practices a few weeks back, you made some headlines when you were in an interview with Kurt Pegler. You said, hey, we're playing with masks, we're scrimmaging with masks. We've been doing it every week, every Saturday. How did that go for the athletes? What feedback did you get from that?
Yeah, so we talked early in this process, not knowing, and just like everybody else, nobody knows where this is going. Nobody knows when our season's going to start. Nobody knows what the mitigations and guidelines are going to be. And we took it like this. We said it's just like putting on your uniforms, putting on your shoes. The mask became a part of our uniform. We told the kids that the coaches are going to do the exact same thing that you're going to do. We're going to make this a part of what we are. So we don't bad talk it. We wear them properly. And let's just go see if we can do it. And to their credit, our young men have never said a single word, at least in front of me. They've never said a word about the mask. I'm sure when coaches aren't around, they probably complain a little bit about them, I would hope. But we did compete. And Mr. Pegler, he did interview me. That was fresh off of a Saturday morning that we just got after it, over the nose, over the mouth. Wearing the mask, getting up and down the floor. We played a 32-minute regulation basketball game, clock stop, bonus, etc. And they did make it work. In an ideal world, without a pandemic, of course, I would love to play basketball without a mask. But I also know that our kids are just really, really hungry, want to compete and want to play together. And that was a way to kind of show that this could be done.
You guys had those intense practices before everything was shut down. That was just a couple of weeks ago. But now, what do things look like? Not allowed to take the court, do the drills, the contact stuff, any of that stuff. What do things look like now? How are you guys staying sharp and staying ready? Assuming maybe that we get word that we can start in January or maybe a little bit after that. But how do you stay fresh?
So we had been doing nonstop shooting. Our kids come in every morning at 7:00 in the morning and shoot. They do it. They love it. It's not an organized activity. That's just what they love to do. They love to come in, and they're called shooting guns. We got 3 of them. So we've been doing that nonstop since school had started. As for the last couple of weeks, we had just wanted that skill work, that one-on-one, that one-on-zero activity, if you will. Just trying to get their overall craft better. But I will tell you guys that Wednesday was rough. Kids are resilient. I do feel like our basketball team has become somewhat numb to the information that's being given to them. I can recall back to when we were allowed to have groups of 10 and we were allowed to run outside on the football field. And then we were allowed in the gym in early July. And then in September, it opened up a little bit more. And then October, we were allowed to scrimmage and we were allowed to get after it a lot more. And it looked like a basketball practice per se with those 20 contact days. And then when I told them that we were not going to be allowed to be in our gym, that we were not going to be allowed to have one-on-ones and one-on-zero workouts, and that we couldn't even be in our weight room, they're numb. And kids sometimes take things better than adults do, and they're resilient and they'll bounce back. And our kids specifically are glass half full. I think that they're chomping at the bit to get after it. But like the coaching staff and like themselves, I think they also realize that this is very real. That there's a lot going on in people's lives, that families have been affected by a lot of different aspects of life, physically, mentally, and just health-wise. And so I think our kids know that. I think some of them are experiencing different things. But at the same time, too, fellas, I can tell you that we're a family as a basketball team. And however we can be together, every day is going to be a bonus right now. And I just can't wait to get back together. And hopefully that's going to be somewhat soon. And hopefully we can do it safely in our gym too.
Well, it sounds like your guys have a very good attitude about it, and everybody's kind of handling it in different ways. And I know one way that a number of athletes in the Peoria area and around the state of Illinois have handled it is by transferring to other states where they can play basketball, they can play football or other sports. What do you think of that trend as a coach?
There's just so many unknowns with surrounding states. There's so many unknowns with our own state, so many unknowns nationally. I think every family, every basketball program has to assess where they're at, what their immediate and long-term futures are. And I will never cast judgment on what a family decides to do with their young man or their young lady and wherever they decide to do. I think that's a personal decision. As for Washington basketball in our program, there's just so many unknowns out there. But the one known that we do have, it's our basketball team, and we're known. We know who we are. We know who our teammates are, but I would never cast judgment on a family deciding to go take their son or their daughter somewhere else. But obviously, I'm not oblivious to the fact that there are athletes right now in Illinois that are going out and trying to find a place to play and maybe to fulfill their dreams.
It's the intersection of the real world effects, the pandemic, and high school athletics there, families having to make those tough decisions. Coach, I don't want to ask you to speculate as to what things might look like come January, come February and beyond, but I do want to ask, assuming a hypothetical that maybe the season were to get pushed back a little further into the spring and it would compete with football, soccer, some of those other sports, what would that do for numbers and the feasibility of having a season? I know this is something a lot of schools have talked about. And maybe not just even at Washington, but other schools as well, because so many players play more than one sport.
That's a great question, Joey. This is how I look at that. That would be a welcome stress. That would be an awesome stress, because if that were to occur, let's just say hypothetically that we have 3 or 4 sports going on at one time, a football, baseball, basketball scenario, and let's just say that would happen. What an incredible stress that would be, because it would be a great one. That means that our nation's healthier. That would mean that schools are back probably full tilt. That would mean that children are back in classrooms across Illinois. And that would mean that adults like Coach Wisher, our baseball coach, who does an outstanding job, Coach Crouch, our football coach, and then our coaching staff, we as adults would have to sit down and say, what is the best interest of our kids? How can we make this work for our kids? How can we make sure that player A can still play baseball and play basketball? And it can't be a tug of war, because at the end of this, student athlete comes first. And that would just be, I would welcome that moment of having to figure that out, because I guarantee that we'll be able to figure that out for the kid.
Well, Coach, I think that pretty much wraps it up, unless Joey has anything else to ask. But it certainly sounds like you'll be ready and your team's going to be ready whenever there may be a season.
Yeah, they're going to be. Our boys are ready. We've got great communication every single day, and right now we're going to try to get creative, fellas. I got to tell you, I got to share something with you really fast about something. We're going to have a team meal, and we're going to do it virtually. I don't think we've ever had a team meal virtually before, ever, probably anywhere in the state of Illinois, but we're going to try to do it. But I do think it's important that you guys hear that kids are resilient, like I said earlier, and finding a way through this. They are ultimately going to find a way through this. And I can't wait to hear a telecast of you guys doing a Washington Metamora game or a Washington Morton game, whatever it's going to be, because that's going to be a great day.
We're looking forward to it, Coach, and I don't really have anything else to add, but just looking forward to when this is all kind of in the rearview mirror and we're back on the basketball court. It was, man, those Washington Metamora games last year, so much fun, and that was such a fun regional, and I miss it, frankly. I'm ready to get back at it.
I hear you. I miss it too.
Especially these days, we're missing the TOC. Well, Eric, thanks for joining us, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon.
All right. Great work, fellas, as always. Thank you very much.